I do remember 911 specifically because the day did start out fairly normally, like any other day.
And I was actually the A+ coordinator at the time.
Ironically, I was in this room.
I was at home, I had just had a baby.
And I was a sophomore in high school, and we were just having band practice and outside marching band practice. And we noticed that there was, like you can see the airplane like jet trails in the sky. We noticed there was one that had made a giant circle, and we didn't realize the significance of that until we got inside.
Mrs. Matson was home on maternity leave with Sierra, and I got an email from her that said, hey, there's something big taking place in New York City.
There were reports going around about a plane hitting a building.
The kids were working independently, and Mrs. Williams came into my desk and said, the kids are saying something's happening in New York.
We moved to America, and when we got our TV, we got settled in. The first thing we saw on TV was 9/11 on the news.
And there was the first tower already up in flames, smoking.
In those days, we still had TVs in every room. And
We flip mine on, and we all start watching, and by that time, the first plane had hit.
And I thought, oh my gosh, I mean, my mind just went crazy with thinking of all the possibilities and the people. And
Everybody watched it all day long. I mean, it didn't matter if you were teaching science, math, history, it didn't matter.
Administrators asked us to get back to our regular lessons, but Mr. Jones and I, you know, we're American history teachers. This is our lesson.
I don't believe in censoring. I don't believe in keeping kids, you know, I just believe in letting them know what's going on. This is what's going on in the real world. I don't think they should be sheltered. And so I did turn the TV on, and we listened intently and got most of the story then. And not only was I in shock, but the kids were in shock when they started hearing that we had actually been attacked.
I had a young man in that class who was actually a senior. It was American history, already 18, who went from being a boy to a very scared young man.
I actually had a student in the class that had relatives that lived in New York City and an uncle that worked in the World Trade Center, and she was very, very unnerved because obviously communications were non-existent out of New York at that time. And
soon found out that we actually had a family in New York at the time, so we were a little nervous.
I had a girl who started crying, and her mother had flown to New York City that morning and was headed to the World Trade Center for business.
You know, I talked to them. We had other teachers come in. We consoled the kids. We even had other teachers, and we were all crying. And, you know, this is what's going on. And students tried to console us too, and we talked about it. But mostly just watched in awe of what was happening right before our eyes.
I hope that days like 9/11 and this remembrance, I don't want to say celebration, this remembrance of this day 10 years later reminds people of how we came together. Because right now, especially, I feel that we are so far apart, politically, economically, socially, and we need to come back together. And I think things like remembrance of this horrific event can help do that just a little bit. Remind us of, that we are one country.
It definitely was one of those things that changed our world, for sure.